Well, hello, sports fans. It's Larry Eater with RunBlogRun. This is our athletics chat number 23. You know the deal. Stuart Weir, the charming man with the earphones. He's in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world. This is Larry Eater, and I am in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the COVID capital of the state of Wisconsin, apparently. Flew back this weekend. So we are kind of living a very hermit-like existence. We've got our shopping done, so I do my walks at night, and you wear a mask anywhere you go. So that's life in the moderate-sized city of Fort Atkinson, about 12,000 people in central or southeast Wisconsin. Excuse me. Stuart, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Just a normal day at the office.
Good.
Did an interview with Abby Irizuru, the long jumper.
Oh, yeah.
Today, that was my highlight, and yeah.
Good.
All good.
Well, I had to but
I was going to say that she lives in Manchester, which is currently, the mayor is fighting central government about whether they're going into lockdown or not.
Wow.
And for her, of course, the significance of this is, are they going to close down all the athletic training centers again?
Yeah. No, we're in Wisconsin right now. The governor is trying to do, well, he's requiring masks if you're less than 6 feet away from people. The Republican Party has sued him in court. The Supreme Court, which is run by Republicans, has thrown the mask mandate out, even though Wisconsin is now the number 2 fastest growing state in COVID. When I left, there was 5,000 positive cases. In 5.5 months, they're at 160,000 and about 1,400 deaths. And, you know, we've got about 4 million people, 4.5 million people compared to California, where I was, where there was 40 million. And in a lot of ways, California was managing, as tough as it is, managing their COVID much better than here. Politics has got involved. And again, in small towns, at least in the U.S., a lot of them don't believe that this is some type of way to get us all to get vaccinated. So a little strange, but it's, in my mind, a little safer here, and you can live a little more modestly. So I had missed my house after 5 months, and I can look at my library lovingly and all that kind of stuff. You can see a bowling pin behind me, Stuart, and that's an award from a race I used to sponsor called the Zippy the Pinhead 5K. Zippy the Pinhead was a underground comic for a while, and the guy who wrote the comic did awards for this race, and it was kind of fun. So, you know, I've got memorabilia plus my G.I. Joe Jeep up on the bookshelf over there, but we'll show that another time. I just finished your piece on Jessie Knight and really enjoyed it. For our readers who don't know a lot about her, why don't you tell us a little more?
Well, when I did my interview with Jessie Knight, I said to her, basically, I just one question I want to ask you. How did you go in 7 months from being an athlete that I had never heard of to being the British champion indoor at 400 and then the British champion outdoor at 400 hurdles? And it's a lovely story because she started doing track and field when she was 8 and progressed reasonably to good club standard and beyond. And then in 2017, with no funding at all, working full-time, she just thought, you know, getting up at 6:15 in the morning, going to work, then going training, and getting back at 9:30 every evening isn't a lot of fun. And she gave it up and literally didn't do any exercise for 6 months.
Wow.
But I'm sure this is from a song or something that, you know, you can take the girl out of track but you can't take track out of the girl. And she just found she missed it and came back, got a coach and said, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to diet, I'm going to train, I'm going to rest. But she's an elementary school teacher, so she's working Monday to Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And she, in fact, came third in our trials for selection for Doha in 2019. First two automatic, but she didn't have the qualifying time by 200th of a second, and so she didn't get in. And disappointed, but hey, let's just keep pressing on. And then the beginning of this year, she was in a flat 400 with two Jamaicans, two Poles, and in her own words, if everyone ran a PR, I come last. But you know what indoor races are like.
Yeah.
She was feeling good, and when they broke for lanes, she said, my only ambition was to try to hold on to the leading group and think I might get through to a good time. But when they broke for lanes, she found she was in front.
Wow.
It did her no harm that Stephanie Ann McPherson and Russell managed to trip each other up. But to be fair, they were behind her at the time. And so she just kept running, wondering if somebody would pass her, and nobody did. And so she won the race.
Wow.
In 51.7, beating athletes who are specialist flat runners.
Mm-hmm.
And so having got the confidence of that extra speed, when she started her hurdling season, she was suddenly taking this extra speed into it. But of course, then when she needed to work in her hurdling, lockdown came, and so she wasn't able to hurdle a lot. But come the summer, she got a chance to get into two diamond leagues and some of the continental races. And I mean, she was winning some of the continental races and doing well on the flat races that she was running. Amused me greatly that she had a 52 something, which was her PR outdoor, but she just dismisses this completely and says, because I'd run faster indoor, I'm not interested in a PR that's slower. And she also took a big decision from September with her school that she would actually work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and that she would then have 2 extra days. As she puts it, not to train any harder, but to rest, recover better, and not to be rushing around, and perhaps on the Thursday and Friday to do my gym work, not at 9 o'clock in the evening, but at a time that suited me.
Sure.
And of course, I mean, she's, as she said, just as I had got myself into a position where potentially I could be selected to the Olympics, the Rotters go and cancel it.
Yeah.
But she's got a winter now, and then hopefully, if next season works at all, she'll be. I mean, she won the British Championship in the hurdles this year, without in any way being negative about that. Of course, in a year of COVID, not everyone was running, not everyone was as sharp as they might have been. But hey, she won it. She's a British champion, and she does that again next year. Now she's already got the Olympic qualifying. If she does that, and if there are Olympics, she'll be going to Tokyo. And for me, it's a nice story because she's basically an amateur athlete who hopefully she'll get on British funding this year. But up until this year, she's just been an amateur. Running, so to speak, was her hobby. Being a school teacher was her job. And it's just nice to see somebody breaking through mid-20s and obviously loving it. And I mean, again, something about her. I sent her a message on social media. Would you be willing to do an interview with me? Instant reply. Second reply, sending me her phone number. Available to talk. And, it's just nice the people we meet in our sport.
Yeah, no, there's some real quality people. I as we've said before, when we reach out to the athletes, they get back to us, especially during the COVID time. I'm kind of surprised how quickly people get back to us. You know who I was thinking about that has been rather colorful and talkative that we haven't heard from in a while is Martin Rooney, who's been on your 4x4 teams for I think 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Anything on him at all? Have you heard anything about him?
No, I haven't. I wonder if he's run at all this year. But yeah, I mean, Martin's one of those people who, I mean, he was European champion, so that wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Never quite was close to getting a medal in at the global events, but put him in a relay, and he would outrun so to speak, a faster athlete.
Yeah.
I have invented the Rooney rule, and the Rooney rule as applied to relay running is if you've got Rooney in the team, you've got more chance of winning.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct. Give me an update on our friends at UK Athletics who have been having some challenges. And the last time you and I caught up, we were very concerned about whether they were going to have a World Athletics indoor meeting, and we're also concerned about a Diamond League bid. Have you heard anything more there?
There's no more news. They're, I think, a week or so away from the end of the consultation period on redundancies and staffing levels. I mean, their official position is that we have made no announcement about Diamond League or indoor Grand Prix, and we wouldn't normally make them at this time of year. But my sort of answer to that would be, well, there are all these rumors going around that they're not going to happen. And if there's nothing in that, it would be very easy for you to say, no, it's going ahead as usual. I mean, I think, and I don't really quite understand the finances of this, but I do not think that there will be an indoor Grand Prix if no spectators are allowed. I mean, I don't quite understand how some countries seem to be able to do this, but we're not. But Joe Coates did say categorically that there couldn't be the anniversary games or Birmingham Diamond League this year without spectators because financially it wouldn't work. I mean, they could do it in Sweden, they can do it in Rome, so I don't quite know what the deal is there.
Sure.
But I can understand totally if they're saying, well, we cannot do the Glasgow Birmingham indoor Grand Prix, it would be in Birmingham this next year. Without spectators financially, it doesn't work for us. But the other rumor that actually they don't want to have Diamond Leagues in future, that's the one that baffles me.
Yeah, I'm just, it's like what concerned me was when you chatted a couple weeks ago that one of the groups that they're looking at for redundancies, I hate that word, is the British Athletics Media, who you and I know do it better than just about anybody in the world but World Athletics. Yeah. I mean, it's...
Well, I'm a member of a group called the British Athletics Writers Association, and we wrote to Joe Coates, or our chairman, Ben Bloom did, just expressing this concern. And I understand that he got a response from her saying the function will remain, but not necessarily with the same staffing pattern as at present. And for example, this year, Ryan Bangs has been the British team media officer, at any event where there's a British team, and Gareth Burrell similarly for Paralympic. And I understand that those two posts are going to disappear, not necessarily the people, but the posts, but that the function will somehow continue, but in a different way. And I suppose until we actually see what it's going to look like. Perhaps we shouldn't jump to conclusions, but certainly I am totally with you that the service that they provide is unprecedented in the world. And I have said this, and I've said this personally to Joe Coates, both in words and in an email. And what I don't know is to what extent the redundancies are driven by money, and to what extent it's a restructuring that she wants to bring in, to put her own stamp on things. And let's be fair to her, that's one of the reasons she was brought in, because they felt there was a need for changes. And so I don't want to appear to be criticizing the thought of any change, but until we actually see what this looks like, then it's difficult to know. I mean, I continue to say, I think that history will judge this, but I think that the loss of Stephen Maguire from the sprints coaching team will be seen as having a negative effect on things.
Yeah, to me, it's sadly reminiscent of the time when Niels de Vos came in. And I think that unfortunately Joe Coates is dealing with some of the ramifications of that, the loss of sponsors, the desire to change sponsors so they were your sponsors, not the predecessors, the dumping of Fast Track, the financial ramifications have to be somewhere north of 100 million sterling just with the Aviva sponsorship alone. And the Aviva people were willing to put up to 60 million back into the sport over 4 years without a phone call from British Athletics, which just sounds like typical federation BS, And it's sad because I think that there's so many exciting athletes that we've been discussing, from Jasmine Sawyers to Jake Whiteman to Laura Muir and Gemma Reiki. And, you guys have got some great coaches, Andy Young and some of the others in the country that I've gotten to meet and admire. And it's just, it's frustrating when the actual running and management of athletics gets messed up because while well-meaning, people change for change's sake. My dad managed a Ford auto area, a department for 35 years. And then he worked for the Japanese at Numi. And his philosophy was if stuff worked, you let it alone and you worked on the things that didn't work. Why give yourself extra headaches? I found my father rather practical about that and have tried to take that to heart. And I think that sometimes we see this, Stuart, in every realm. Let's do the Commonwealth Games. You and I went to the Commonwealth Games in 2014. We much enjoyed those games. You assisted me on, actually, you were the one who brought it up about trying to get the U.S. back involved in the Commonwealth Games. And we had a couple reporters believing that. And that was one of the highlights of the games, besides 16 days of August and me in a small room in the E Hotel by the university. But the Commonwealth Games will be in Birmingham this time.
Birmingham,
Now, there's been a bit of controversy. Apparently, 2 of the executive board have resigned in a short period of time. And the last gentleman made it very clear that he was not pleased with the way the event was being managed. Have you heard anything on this?
Well, I know that they've had severe budget issues, but I mean, frankly, which potential organizing committee has not been over budget and has had to make cutbacks? I mean, anything I've been involved in, that has happened.
Sure.
They started off with a very ambitious plan. And then they said, well, actually, we now cannot afford. I mean, they were going to build a village for the athletes from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now saying, well, we just can't afford to do that. The city isn't putting in the money that we expected them to, and so on. And actually, in any case, uh, we've got 3 universities in the city who have already got halls of residence. And so the disadvantage of that, of course, is that you don't have everyone in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Commonwealth Games is a lovely event. I mean, I was in Delhi in 2010. I was in Glasgow 2014. I was in Gold Coast 2018. I mean, it's like a mini Olympics.
Yeah.
And the fact that just about everyone competing speaks English, at least as a second language, means that it's a much more friendly atmosphere than you get with the Olympics. And it's a slightly lower standard, but that means that athletes who can't quite make the Olympics get to the Commonwealth Games. And we have this quaint situation in my country that rather than having a British team, we have an England team, a Northern Ireland team, a Wales team, and a Scotland team. Mm-hmm. And that means again that someone like Sally Peake, who's been the best Welsh pole vaulter for years, but was never quite good enough to make an Olympics with Britain. She has been to the last 2 Commonwealth Games and got a medal in Glasgow in the pole vault, if you remember, on the wettest day since the days of Noah and the Ark. And she got her bronze medal, even though she wasn't the 3rd best vaulter in the competition, because she managed it well. She knew when to come in, and she cleared the bar. Better vaulters left it too late and made no mark.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, she described it to me as pole vaulting is a dangerous sport, and when you're going through pools of water in the run-up, you make a dangerous sport a lot more dangerous. But she showed the courage, the nous, the technical approach, and she got her medal.
No, she did. She did wonderfully. Glasgow to me was so much fun. The people were great. Since I was one of the few Americans there, that made it even more fun because people found that rather curious. Why would an American be there? And I enjoyed it. And I think we got to sit rather close and chat a little bit. And we were well behaved. We didn't get thrown out of the media stands, which was good.
Well, I mean, we might let you come in 2022.
I'm hoping so. I would really like that. I love Birmingham. I need some good curry. I've been the curry in the U.S. I found a couple places that are decent. Actually, one in Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. But it's not going to the places like when we would go to the NAI and then grab some curry on the way home to the hotel.
I have heard a statistic which I haven't verified, but apparently Birmingham has more bulky curry houses than any other city outside of India per square meter or whatever.
Wow!
So you won't be short.
Good. That's important. That's important.
And the other fascinating thing about Birmingham is it's got more canals than Venice.
I love walking along the canals, and I remember Ian Stewart explaining to me that in the 17th century, the width of the canals changed between London and Birmingham, so you had to change boats so the people in Birmingham could make a little more money. So I thought that was kind of fun, too. And I love those. I've talked to people living in the boats along the canals, too. They thought I was a little crazy, but since I had an American accent, they took my questions, so I thought that was good. What's your guess on the Olympics right now? Anything new?
I still think it's 50-50. I mean, I'm taking part in a media briefing at the beginning of next month, and I'd love to ask the question, will the Olympics take place? But at this stage, they're obviously going to say yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we know that if the Olympics were tomorrow, I think it's well over 100 countries, the citizens of which do not have free access to Japan.
Yeah.
So clearly things have got to make a lot of progress that the Japanese health authorities reckon that people from your country and mine are safe to allow in.
Speaking of safe to allow in, at the current time, if you were offered a trip to Nanjing for the World Indoor Championships, would you go?
I would send you in my place.
Thank you, Stuart. You're so thoughtful. And one of the things is just that our viewers get to see that whole caring thing we've got going between us.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
There is no chance of me going to Nanjing next year.
Okay.
I mean, I booked to go this year, of course.
Sure.
And then there was this little local problem that suddenly has become a global pandemic.
Yes, I watched, which was the movie? There's a movie from 2011, Contagion. If you haven't seen it yet, it's very well done. And they give some hypotheses about how something, a global contagion could happen. And it just so happened that bats were involved and pigs were involved and all those happy things. So that scared the hell out of me for, a few hours. So we've talked about UK athletics possibly doing indoor, maybe not doing Diamond League. I just saw that the Dusseldorf indoor meeting, they will not allow spectators. That's nice. So the Germans are being practical. I have no idea if USATF will do an indoor championship next year, although the date is the same as the Millrose Games, which I find to be fascinating and disturbing all at the same time. We've got a couple interesting events coming up over here. The Marathon Project, which will be December 20th, hosted by Ben Rosario from the Northern Arizona Hoka Group. He's got an amazing field, men and women. It's going to be a old school, like 4.5 mile loop. Reminds me of the old West Valley Track Club Marathon in in Saratoga, California, where I think Duncan McDonald ran a 2:17. And then Jesse Williams, the former Brooks sports marketing manager, he has a company called Sound Running. And in August, they did two kind of pop-up mini meets with 3 or 4 events in each one, some very good performances. He's going to do a meet on December 4th and 5th. Right now, the first one after the Olympic standards are open. He's doing a 5, a 10 for men and women. He's doing a high school 5. He's also doing a steeple. So he's going to have, and he's shown that he could do it. And I'm glad he's got sponsors because, the putting people up in a hotel for a week and testing them 4 times has got to be a challenge, But it's pretty good stuff. The other couple things, I had put up something yesterday about Maria Lazinskina, the Russian high jumper, 4-time world champion, who has been very critical, let's use the word hypercritical, of the Russian Federation. She's annoyed. She doesn't want to transfer allegiance to another country. She wants to compete for Russia. And you and I have chatted about watching Sergei Shabenkov, the hurdler. In Doha, the poor guy was just blasted by Russian media. They wanted him to say how terrible it was he couldn't carry his flag. At the end of the day, the guy just wanted to compete and run. And Lazinskina is the same way. If you don't ask her a high jump question, you get silence, So I don't know what's going to happen there. It's just sad because we enjoy those athletes.
And if you are a clean athlete, I remember during the Olympics meeting a Russian tennis player, and she said it's so frustrating because I play in the international circuit and I get tested every other week, but everyone says Russian drugs cheat.
Oh yeah,
and so that it is hard for those who And we all know that an athletic career is short. And if you lose one Olympics, 4 years later you may not be in the same shape.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing that was interesting when you did that book review on the Russian drug crisis,
Yeah, yeah.
that was fascinating to me, just on how the level of depravity had gone so high and so deep. But I remember Emil Zatopek telling me when I interviewed him in 1990, I asked him if he'd had any conversations with Vladimir Kuts. And he told me that in 1956, Kuts told him that he was pretty sure that they had him on something that he didn't feel good from. And that was eye-opening to think about it. That was that long ago. And I just don't know how to reconcile that with 60 years of athletics. But you also have a piece this week on Jake Whiteman. Anything new with him?
Well, I mean, the whole COVID thing goes on and on, because I asked Jake, where are you going to train this winter? He says, well, I usually go to America in November and to South Africa in January, but at the moment, neither countries will let me in.
Wow.
So that, as well as the lack of competition, I think a lot of athletes, I mean, the states are big enough because you get every climate within one country. But you see, a lot of athletes from Britain will go to warm weather training somewhere and go to altitude training somewhere. And I mean, Jeff, rather, I keep calling him Jeff like his dad, but Jake, for example, likes to go to Flagstaff in Arizona. But at the moment, he thinks he will not be. He's not allowed into the U.S. And similarly, South Africa, because they've had COVID really bad, is restricting foreigners from entering. So, I mean, he said, "Well, we're working on it. I would love to go away somewhere, but don't know whether it'll be possible or where it will be." But again, I think that it was interesting doing the piece with Jake after you had done the interview with him and how he had talked about wanting to develop his top end speed. Interesting to get his assessment of this summer, where he ran 1:1500 and 6 800s, and just what he felt he got out of that. And I love his comment that I learned how to run an 800, and I learned how I run an 800. Because saying, now I want to go into an 800 no matter who I'm against, and to think I have a chance of winning it.
No, I thought that he was, going down to 144.08. He showed some real impressive improvements for 2020, and. But did you talk about how he reconciles his differences of opinion between his father and himself in terms of the coaching?
Not on this one. I mean, that came out, as you know, in the previous one that the British Athletics set up. But I'm actually hoping to do something with Jeff, so that might be interesting to get his perspective on that.
That'd be fun.
But just go back to Jeff for a moment. I mean, I like the idea that he's saying, look, there's two things I'm trying to achieve. If I'm in an 800 race, no matter who's in it, I want to be thinking, actually, I have a chance of winning this. And he wants to be thinking, if I'm in a 1500, no matter how the first 2 laps have been run, fast or slow, with 2 laps to go, I'm in the mix and I'm as likely to win as anyone else in the race.
That's impressive. I think his change in his mental approach and his change in his competitiveness have been fun to watch over the last couple of years.
Yes. Again, I said to him, when you go into a race like somewhere like Monaco, are you running for a place or are you running for a time? And I mean, he said, well, I'm running to win. Because if you're actually going into a race saying, I don't care if I win this or not, as long as I run fast, what are you doing in the race? And if you keep that attitude going into a championship, you're not going to win many medals.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, I thought he had thought it out a lot, pretty well.
Any more thoughts about the London Marathon that just happened?
I mean, I think we did very well. It'd be interesting whether, I don't know how you'd work this out, were the results affected by running 19 laps rather than running effectively one lap? I wonder, was there any advantage to anyone in that? I don't know. I mean, I certainly know that one or two athletes said to me beforehand, I've never run a marathon, which was 19 laps before. I find that very strange.
Yeah, I know the old New York City Marathon was 5 laps around Central Park, and then in the old days, and that's I used to run a 20-miler in Central Park, and it was a rather hilly course, so the 5 boroughs race was much gentler, even though it was a tough course for everybody. Over here, there's been a bit of controversy about Sarah Hall and her new shoes. Anything in the UK about that?
I haven't seen anything on that.
Yeah, the thing
it's
that
quite sad, really. It's quite sad, really, when somebody runs the race of their life, and all people want to talk about is the shoes.
Yeah, it was interesting. Ben Rosario did a press conference last week for the marathon project that he's working on, this race in December. And he asked that if you had questions for Sarah, would you talk about her race and not about her shoes? And I find it, I know that her agent said, hey, look, her shoes are reviewed, they were approved. And that's that. I do believe that the new shoes, like new equipment, does help athletes be faster. And I think back to Ron Clark running the first sub 28-minute 10K on a virtual chopped up track. It wasn't artificial surface. It was almost an old dirt gravel track. And so that a new surface would have been huge for these guys. You add that to the new shoes, and what does that do? So how do we compare, someone like Emil Zatopek and one of the more modern athletes, Joshua Cheptegei? And I just saw somebody say something to the effect that Joshua Cheptegei did not look tired after the race. Well, I looked at him and he looked exhausted. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one because, I mean, if you've seen the movie Chariots of Fire about Eric Liddell and Harold Abrahams, 1924 Olympics, there was criticism there in the film of Abraham because he had a coach. I mean, can you imagine having a coach to help you? And again, there was one of the other people who was in the British team, who said, well, some of these people have been training. And I mean, that's just very unsporting to be training. And so where do you draw the line? And I mean, it's interesting that in golf now, when the players are hitting the ball so far, there's actually talking about saying, well, perhaps we need a different ball for the professionals than from the amateurs. Just so that the amateurs can have all the advantage of the new technology, but just to stop the professionals ruining the game, we need to have a ball that doesn't go as far. And again, I mean, you look back to somebody in my city in my lifetime, Roger Bannister, running the 4-minute mile. Well, he was a full-time doctor.
Yeah.
um, working with patients, and a university professor of medicine. So he wasn't training, resting, taking his diet terribly seriously. Um, uh, so you can't compare him with a modern 1500 runner, chariot, whose whole life is geared to running faster. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's progress, and I think to some extent, we also have the issue of some world records that no one thinks are clean.
Yeah.
So I think it's the problem is trying to compare the present with the past, and that isn't. There's just no reliable way of doing it. I mean, it's a bit like saying, would if Fred Perry were playing a tennis match against Federer, who would win?
No, you're right.
If Billie Jean King was playing Serena Williams, who would win? And you just can't answer it.
Yeah. Well, we will take that subject up with Athletics Chat 24, Stuart. You survived another 40 minutes with me. Have a safe week, my friend. And I will check in with you next week.
Thank you.
All right. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. We're Stuart Weir, and we just had Athletics Chat number 23. If you like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. Larry Eder saying stay safe, signing off. Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder, RunBlogRun, Athletics Chat number 23. See, I can use my fingers. And you know the deal. Stuart Weir is in lovely Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world. I'm now in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the COVID capital of Jefferson County. Not something to be proud about, but apparently people are being knuckleheads and don't believe that there's a virus or tired of it or whatever. But this is a pandemic. Please stay safe. Doesn't matter your political affiliation. It doesn't affect your heterosexuality or whatever your sexual preferences are. Wear a mask if you're not going to be 6 feet more separate. If you're indoors, please wear a mask except when you're eating. Don't be stupid. We don't want you to get sick. There's the flu and there's COVID. This is going to be a shitstorm, so just be careful. Okay. Now we've got past that. Let's talk about Athletics Chat number 23. Quick update on the World Half Marathon in Gdynia in Poland. It went very, very well this weekend. World record on the women's side, a new star on the men's side, and was it Perez Jepchirchir on the women's side and Jacob Kiplino on the men's. Some pretty fast running on both sides, and that they were able to put it together in this pandemic is absolutely insane. Congratulations to the local LOC, to the World Athletics, to the athletes, to the coaches, to the federation. Still, for the life of me, disappointed that USATF didn't send a team, understanding that we're in the middle of a pandemic and it's got to be quite difficult, and other countries did not go as well. Just disappointed. Would have liked to see the athletes there. Olympics, Stuart and I talked about that. We still think it's 50-50. We do think they need a vaccine. I also see in some of the articles in The Guardian, Sean Ingalls is one of our friends, and he does a lovely job there covering things thoughtfully and well and telling both sides of the story. He should be read by everyone. Sean has noted that it's going to be a more simple Olympics, and so is Inside the Games.biz, which we highly recommend, another fantastic site. What are they going to do? Cut down the number of media, cut down the number of athletes? They're going to have to cut people down because, 10,000 athletes, 10,000 media, it's a Petri dish. Rob Petrie from, Mary Tyler Moore Show, or Dick Van Dyke Show. Anyway, so the deal is that you put people from 209 countries all together in stadiums and indoor facilities. you're going to get stuff passed around, and you're going to have outrageous numbers of positive cases, because also the athletes are in top form. And when they're in top form, their immune systems are down a little bit. And that's why people get sick during Olympics. Brendan Foster, 1976, the guy had diarrhea for the entire week before 10,000 meters. Not the way to prepare. And the guy got a bronze medal. So I should tell you how pretty awesome Big Bren is. Anyway, I don't know. I just, and I know that's shocking because you guys expect me to know all, or to do a animal sacrifice in the backyard with a goat or a small farm creature and have an answer. But I don't on this one, and neither does Stuart, and he was, asking Nostradamus. Okay, Commonwealth Games. We talked about the Commonwealth Games. Stuart's been to New Delhi 2010. He's been to Glasgow 2014 and the Gold Coast 2018. I was allowed in Glasgow in 2014. Tried to get into 2018, was too late, and was probably smart because I had heart surgery at the same time. So that had been a rather complicated international incident. But Commonwealth Games are going to be happening in Birmingham, and two of the folks of the executive committee have resigned, and both were rather verbal, shall we say. One noted that he didn't think the executive board was really doing its job, and a few other less than stellar recommendations of the group. So budget issues, but as Stuart said, everybody has budget issues when you put on an event, so get over it. We wish Birmingham, one of my favorite cities, and the place outside of New Delhi that has the most curry cafes and shops in the world. And I'll tell you, I would go to Birmingham just for the curry, but my buddies live there, and we can drink Cobra beer and walk the canals and all that kind of stuff too. And the city has, I think, almost as many canals as Venice. So just remember that too. So Commonwealth Games 2022, want to do that, World Championships and Europeans. So I've got to save some money up. UK Athletics, are they going to do indoor meets? We have no clue. They've obviously got some financial issues. They are reassessing their redundancies. Such a lovely British English term for trying to figure out how they can save a couple dollars and put the finger in the proverbial hole in the wall. So are they going to do Diamond League meet? They may not even bid on one, apparently. Some reports. I just think this is out of control. They lost a lot of money when they got rid of Fast Track, and I do think that's a big part of the problem. Changing in sponsors was also kind of bullshit too. What happens a lot of times when a new administration comes in, they want to put their own footprint on it. Well, you know what? Sometimes if things are working well, just stay the hell out of there and work on the things you need to improve. Now what they've done is they've put the sport back 4 or 5 years. Because there's going to be athletes who can't be funded. And quite frankly, British Athletics was doing some pretty damn good things. The relay pools make a ton of sense. And I think countries like the U.S., hint, hint, should think about it. So UK Athletics, we don't know about an indoor meet. We don't know about an outdoor meet. I went to the outdoor meets for years and years and years, indoor meets years and years and years, and just disappointed. Is the USA indoor season happening? No clue. Although the U.S. indoor meet is the same date as the Milrose Games. I'm not sure which is at fault, but can't we just love one another, as Rodney King used to say. So can they just talk to each other, maybe meet in federation and figure a way that's good for the sport, good for the fans? Also, I think it was Dusseldorf, but it could have been Karlsruhe, noted that there will be no fans at their indoor meeting in 2021. Disappointing. Hopefully they'll let media in. Then we talked about Jessie Knight. Jessie Knight is the 400 hurdle champion in the UK. She was a pretty good 400 runner. Gave it up for about 7 or 8 months teaching full-time, and then came back to the hurdles and got a proper coach and started running very well in the hurdles, and then started running very well indoors in the 400, won the indoor title in the 400, won the outdoor title in the 400 hurdles. But she's only been back full-time for about a year and a half. And here's what I think about it. I know you're shocked. it's another example that athletics has an event for everyone. If you take the time, there's a lot of distance runners who figured out that they weren't good sprinters. I remember a kid, Rich Messino, who we coached at Bellarmine, who was, pretty quick at 200 meters, but he was finishing third and fourth all the time. And head coach Terry Ward convinced him to run cross country. We used to call the kid Mr. Adrenaline, and he did. And then we got him running track, and he did, and he ran very, very well. And ran a 4:20 mile in high school. I think he got down 4:08, 4:09 in college. But he had wheels, and he had a good finish, but he put that endurance with his finish, and it did well. So sometimes it's a journey, Those athletes you see out there who look so easy with everything, they've worked 12 to 15 years at perfecting their talents and honing that mortal engine, okay? And then Stuart talked about Jake Whiteman, talked about how he did 1:1500 this year in 6 800s, got his 800 down to 1:44.08, and believes he can be competitive in any 800 he competes in. I think that's fantastic. I think the big thing about Jake, who we've always enjoyed interviewing, is watching his confidence level grow. He's working on his top-notch speed, which is what you really need. That last 200 meters, that last actually 50, 60 meters is where he's going to pick up medals, where he can win a title. Because, think about Osaka in 2007. 52.9 did not win a medal for that last lap. 52.4 did. It was a battle. There's 8 guys under 52.9. It just tells you how competitive our sport is and how you have to be there. You're all there. Your head, your heart, your feet, your desire. As Bill Toomey, the 1968 Olympic champion at the decathlon, said, you got to covet it more than anybody else. You got to really want that medal. But Jake is really coming along, and he his 3:29 this year, putting him ahead on the British list of a certain Seb Coe, a certain Steve Cram, a certain Steve Ovett, the 3 S's, Seb, Steve, and Steve. And he can run faster. I think he can run 3:27 in the next year. So we will have to see. And a 1:43.5, but he can go faster. But again, there's some great athletes coming up in the British ranks. There's some great athletes coming up in the U.S. ranks. We need to see a few more races. We also gave praise again to Jesse Williams of Sound Running, Farmer Brooks, sports marketing dude, who came up with a couple boutique pop-up meets. Boutique I use as a word of excellence. And focused, well-run, well-orchestrated meets of some complication. We're going to take care of people's meals, help them deal with the pandemic, keep them isolated, keep them safe, keep them healthy. And the meet's kind of an afterthought almost, but it's not. You got to do it all to bring them together. And Jesse did that twice in a week. So December 4th and 5th, he's going to do the track meet. And it's going to be a 3,000, a 5,000 men and women's, a 10,000, and a high school 5. And the idea is giving people a chance to qualify in the Olympic window. Because remember, the Olympic window was shut down for a while during COVID. It's being opened up again December 1. So that should be good. Also remember the Marathon Project, December 20th in Arizona. And Ben Rosario from Northern Arizona Elite, the HOKA sponsored club, is the impresario with some support from some other really good people. It's like a 4.2 mile, 4.8 mile loop. And you got some studs in that race. It's going to be fast and furious, both the men and women. And that's December 20th. So that'll be kind of a fun little way to get ready for the holidays. As you're wrapping, you can watch a marathon. We finished up with talking about athletes like Lazinskina, Maria Lazinskina, and Sergei Shabenkov not being able to compete right now. So here's the deal. In August, the Russian Federation paid about 6.4 million to World Athletics to cover the debt that World Athletics had to do to investigate them. on their systematic cheating. But not all Russian athletes cheat. And athletes like Lazinskaya, Shabenkov have been tested. And they, with a whole other group of athletes, were given ANA status, which means they got to compete, but not under anybody's flag. I recall in Doha, Shabenkov just wanting to just turn people off as they were asked about, aren't you sad about not being able to compete for Russia, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, he can't say anything because he can't win or whatever he says. He's got people hating him either way. So he let it alone. Lazinskaya came out against the Russian Federation, and she was really good at that. And I thought that I'd like to see them compete, so we'll have to see what happens there. And I think that's covering Athletics Chat 23 and all the topics we covered. Know that next Monday, Stuart and I will get together again for Athletics Chat 24. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. And if you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It would really mean a lot. And then also, if you love us, subscribe on the YouTube to RunBlogRun's channel there. We've got a ton of videos. Well, not 2,000 pounds worth, but lots. So stay safe. Okay, it's getting to be cold around the U.S. It's 32 degrees in Wisconsin. We just left California where it was 103 last week. But in places where it's cool, you may have to go inside. Please keep that to a minimum. If you're inside, wear a mask. Wash your hands. Make sure the masks are clean. Don't be goofy. A lot of people getting sick. Wearing a mask does not attack your masculinity. It does not attack your political affiliation. Actually, people who wear masks are patriots because guess what? They're thinking about people besides themselves. Okay? I think one of our real problems is everybody's gets so upset with everything. And the truth is, if you think about others, you'll wear a mask. Because there's some people that are more susceptible than others. There's some people that are just healthy as can be, and God bless them. But there's other people, like me, who have heart issues, and you got to wear a mask, and you got to be careful. And I am. But I also ask you to be too. When you're outdoors, take the mask, put it in your pocket while you're walking, running, biking, stuff like that. If you get too close to somebody, wear a mask. There's a lot of people chattering around you, wear a mask. There's a lot of things we still don't know about COVID or learning. But you know what? Republicans can respect science, and so can Democrats, and so can Marxists and green people and all that kind of stuff. All right? Be safe. So you can listen to RunBlogRun another week or 2 or 3 or 30 more years. God help me. Anyway, have a great week. Larry Eater, RunBlogRun, Athletics Chat 23, signing off.